before classrooms had walls, before books carried knowledge, before learning was measured by grades and exams. There was another way to teach, a way rooted in observation, memory, and life itself. This is the story of how Native American tribes educated their children, without schools, without paper, and without forgetting who they were. Chapter 1. Education as a way of life. In many Native American societies, education did not begin in a classroom, nor was it confined to a specific age or place. It began at birth, woven naturally into the fabric of everyday life. Learning was not treated as a separate activity, but as a continuous process shaped by experience, observation, and participation. Children learn by living. They watched adults prepare food, craft tools, care for the land, and interact with one another. Through observation, they absorbed skills, values, and responsibilities long before they were formally expected to perform them. Participation came gradually, allowing children to grow into their roles with confidence rather than pressure. There was no urgency to force children into adulthood. Growth followed the natural rhythm of development, guided by patience and careful observation from parents, elders, and the wider community. Mistakes were not signs of failure, but opportunities for understanding. Children were trusted to learn at their own pace, supported rather than rushed. Education was not focused on memorizing information or collecting facts. It was about becoming responsible, respectful, self-aware, and connected to the world around them. Learning shaped character as much as skill, teaching individuals how to live in balance with others, the land, and themselves. In this way, education was not something one completed or graduated from. It was a lifelong journey, rooted in experience and guided by wisdom, forming individuals who understood not only how to survive, but how to live well. Chapter 2. Learning through observation. Children were not lectured or overwhelmed with constant instruction. Instead, they were encouraged to watch closely and learn through careful observation. In Native American societies, knowledge was not pushed onto children. It was discovered through curiosity, patience, and attention. Young boys and girls observed adults as they hunted, farmed, crafted tools, prepared food, and cared for the community. They watched how hands moved, how decisions were made, and how respect was shown to people, animals, and the land. No rigid instructions were forced upon them. Children were trusted to learn by seeing, listening, and gradually participating when they felt ready. Mistakes were understood as a natural part of learning, not something to be punished or shamed. When a child failed, guidance came through example rather than criticism. This approach allowed children to develop confidence without fear and independence without isolation. Through quiet observation, children absorbed more than practical skills. They learned discipline, patience, responsibility, and respect. Knowledge gained this way became deeply rooted because it was experienced rather than memorized. To watch carefully was itself an act of respect for the knowledge being shared, for the teacher demonstrating it, and for the tradition being passed down. In learning through observation, children developed not only understanding, but wisdom that stayed with them throughout life. Chapter 3. Storytelling as the first classroom. Stories formed the foundation of Native American education. Long before written texts or formal lessons, knowledge was carried through spoken word, shared in moments of gathering and reflection. Around evening fires and during long nights, elders told stories passed down through generations, ensuring that wisdom traveled safely through time. These stories were more than entertainment. They carried history, law, morality, and spiritual teachings within them. Through narrative, communities explained how the world came to be, how people should treat one another, and what consequences followed certain choices. Animals spoke, not as fantasy, but as mirrors of human behavior. Nature listened, responded, and taught. Heroes were not perfect figures. They failed, struggled, and learned, showing that growth comes through experience and humility. Each story held layers of meaning. A child might hear the same story many times throughout life, yet understand it differently with age and experience. What sounded like a simple tale at 7 could reveal deeper lessons about responsibility, leadership, or sacrifice at 20. In this way, stories grew alongside the listener, offering guidance at every stage of life. Stories were memory, preserving the past and protecting it from being forgotten. They were identity, anchoring individuals to their people, their land, and their ancestors. To know the stories was to know who you were and where you belonged. In this first classroom, learning did not fade with time, it deepened. Chapter 4. The Role of Elders as Teachers. Elders were the greatest teachers in Native American societies. They were not chosen by titles, certificates, or positions of authority, but by the lives they had lived. Their experience, shaped by years of observation, struggle, success, and reflection, carried lessons that no book or formal instruction could replace. Elders taught through presence as much as through words. They modeled patience in moments of conflict, restraint in times of temptation, humility in leadership, and respect in every interaction. Correction was gentle rather than harsh, offered through stories, questions, or quiet guidance instead of punishment. Their approach encouraged understanding rather than fear. To sit with an elder was to sit with history. Within them lived the memories of ancestors, traditions, migrations, and decisions that shaped the community. They carried knowledge of what had worked, what had failed, and why balance mattered. Their teachings connected the past to the present, ensuring continuity across generations. Through their role, wisdom did not disappear with time. Instead, it was carefully passed on, shaped by experience and preserved through respect. Elders ensured that learning remained rooted in meaning, memory, and responsibility, guiding the community forward without losing sight of where it came from. Chapter 5. Learning from Nature. Nature itself was a teacher, offering lessons that could not be confined to words or walls. For Native American children, learning took place outdoors, beneath open skies, across forests and plains, beside rivers, and under the stars. The natural world was observed carefully, listened to closely, and respected deeply. Children learned the behavior of animals, how they moved, hunted, protected their young, and adapted to their surroundings. From these observations came lessons in survival, cooperation, patience, and awareness. The changing seasons taught timing and preparation, while the wind, weather, and stars guided travel, planting, and ceremony. Plants offered lessons in healing and care. Knowledge of roots, leaves, and herbs was passed down with precision, teaching not only how to heal the body, but how to respect the source of that healing. The land itself taught balance, when to take, when to rest, and when to give back. Overuse was understood as a form of disrespect that threatened future survival. Education was grounded in reality. Knowledge was practical, spiritual, and inseparable from daily life. Learning was not abstract or detached. It was connected directly to survival, responsibility, and respect for all living things. To harm nature was to fail the lesson. Such harm disrupted balance and revealed a lack of understanding. True learning was demonstrated through care, restraint, and harmony with the world. In learning from nature, children developed wisdom that sustained both their communities and the land itself. Chapter 6. Moral and Spiritual Education. Education in Native American societies was not limited to the teaching of practical skills. It was equally, and often more importantly, about shaping character. Learning was meant to guide how a person lived, treated others, and understood their place in the world. Children were taught values such as honesty, generosity, courage, self-control, and responsibility to the community. These qualities were not taught through lectures alone, but through daily example. Children watched how adults acted in times of difficulty, how they shared resources, and how they resolved conflict. Moral lessons were reinforced through stories, ceremonies, and communal expectations. Spiritual teachings helped children understand that humanity existed within a larger living system, not above it. The earth, animals, plants, and unseen forces were all connected. From an early age, children learned that every action carried consequences, not only for the individual, but for families, communities, and future generations. Responsibility extended beyond the self. Wisdom was valued more than intelligence. Knowing facts mattered less than understanding how to live well. True wisdom showed itself in restraint, compassion, and thoughtful decision-making. Education aimed to create individuals who were not only capable, but also ethical, balanced, and deeply aware of their impact on the world around them. Chapter 7. Preparing for Adulthood. As children grew older, education became more focused and specialized. The community observed each young person carefully, recognizing individual strengths, interests, and abilities. Guidance was offered not to limit potential, but to help each person grow into a role where they could best serve both themselves and the community. Some young people were guided toward leadership, learning decision-making, diplomacy, and responsibility through observation and mentorship. Others learned healing, studying plants, ceremonies, and the balance between body and spirit. Some focused on crafting tools, clothing, and shelter, while others trained in hunting, tracking, and survival. Spiritual practices were taught to those called to carry deeper ceremonial and moral responsibilities. Rites of passage marked the transition from childhood into adulthood. These ceremonies were sacred and meaningful, often involving tests of endurance, reflection, or skill. They signaled readiness, responsibility, and belonging, not only to oneself, but to the entire community. Through these moments, young people were acknowledged as contributors rather than dependents. Education did not end with these rites. It evolved. Learning continued through experience, guidance from elders, and responsibility to others. Adulthood was not a final destination, but a new stage of growth. In this way, education remained a lifelong journey, shaping individuals who continued to learn, reflect, and contribute throughout their lives. Chapter 8: What was lost and what endures. Colonization deeply disrupted Native American systems of education, knowledge, and cultural transmission. Languages were silenced, stories were interrupted, and teachings that had been passed down for generations were forcibly replaced with foreign systems of learning. Traditional ways of educating children, rooted in community, nature, and spirituality, were often dismissed or deliberately erased, leaving lasting wounds. Forced schooling and policies designed to separate children from their families and cultures broke the natural flow of learning. Identity was challenged, memory was fractured, and knowledge that once lived freely within daily life was pushed aside. What was lost was not only language and tradition, but entire ways of understanding the world. Yet not everything was lost. Despite generations of disruption, many Native American communities have worked tirelessly to reclaim what was taken. Languages are being revitalized. Stories are being retold. Elders are once again recognized as teachers, and traditional practices are being woven back into modern life. Education rooted in culture, land, and identity is re-emerging through community schools, ceremonies, and intergenerational learning. The classroom without walls still exists. It lives in memory, in practice, and in resistance. It survives wherever stories are spoken, where children learn from elders, and where the land is treated as a teacher. What endures is not only knowledge, but resilience, a reminder that education, when grounded in identity and respect, cannot be erased. Closing reflection. Once, learning had no walls. It lived in stories, in elders' voices, in the land beneath bare feet. Wisdom was not taught, it was lived. Character mattered more than knowledge. Belonging mattered more than achievement. Much was disrupted, but not everything was lost. These teachings still breathe. In memory, in resistance, in the act of remembering. The classroom without walls remains. Welcome to Mode Hub Tales,